Hey millennials, welcome back to the channel. Today's August 30th, 2023. As promised, I am going to share my payday routine. Personal finance is rarely taught in school. If our parents were not wealthy when we were growing up, we had nowhere to learn about good personal finance habits. I personally believe that bad traits are passed from one generation to the other. It is very tough to break out of the poor mentality. If our parents are big spenders and do not save money for a rainy day, we will also probably struggle financially throughout life. That is, if we do not educate ourselves and break the cycle. We need to remember the wise words from Bill Gates. If you are born poor, it's not your mistake. But if you die poor, it is your mistake.
Why?
Because it is our duty to educate ourselves and stop blaming our beginnings or our parents for what we are lacking. We need to remember that they lived in a different, harder time. We now have the internet to feed our brain and to learn from others who have succeeded. We choose what we spend our time and what we indulge in. Once we change our mentality, we can help our family cross the line and get them up to speed. So a little history on my personal finance journey. I come from a very humble beginning. My mother is a housewife and my father, in the later years, obtained his CDL to become a truck driver. Although we always had a roof over our head and food on our table, we never had discretionary income to spend. I do not remember a single vacation trip or us buying fancy stuff. I was sometimes even bullied at school for the cheap downtown tennis shoes I wore or for the beat up cars my parents drove. Now, I must admit, not everything was sad. I do have loving parents that have pushed me to go further. I feel like Moses from the Bible. I need to free my people from the poor mentality. When I graduated high school, I enrolled in my local community college, got my associate's degree, and then went to complete my education bachelor's degree at our local university. My original plan was to get a job as an elementary school teacher. I fantasized about finally making the $45,000 a year teacher salary and then one day becoming a principal for a school. It has never been about loving money, but about having enough to at least not worry about paying the bills. When I was going to college, I was already married and with 2 kids. I worked for 19 hours a week as a writing tutor at my local university and was only getting paid $10 per hour. You do the math. We were living on peanuts. My wife did not work as she had to take care of our kids since we couldn't afford daycare. Sometimes we did not have $30 to pay our pocket cell phone bill. Many times we fueled $3 or $4 of gas on our Taurus station wagon and prayed to make it where we were going. I still remember going house to house, pushing a lawnmower in my parents' neighborhood, knocking on doors to see if anyone wanted their grass cut. Some people were afraid to open the door, and others simply had a gardener already. A few would give me a chance and would send me home with a few bucks. Little by little, I started doing more research on personal finance and on how to invest. Being around wiser students at the university and around PhD professors also helped. I fell into the personal finance and growing my net worth rabbit hole. I fell in love with it. Around this time, my parents had already begun investing in real estate. They pushed and helped me purchase my first home, and 3 years later, encouraged me to upgrade to my second home. I did not know what to do with the first home, so I decided to rent it out. The first month, I probably netted around $200 of profit from the rent. It quickly snowballed from there. So on to a title. How do I manage my finances and what is my routine on payday? I do not pay myself anything from my real estate business and have a separate account dedicated to this business. I leave the rental income and the mortgages I collect the first of the month in the bank, and I simply invest it. I have a second bank account I call my escrow account. I do automatic weekly withdrawals from my real estate account to my escrow account to save for property taxes. This way, I am not surprised at the end of the year. I simply divide what I paid last year in property taxes by 52 weeks and transfer that every Friday. This is basically on cruise control. I do not worry about this. Every Friday, I get a $3,000 paycheck from my convenience store. By the way, for those of you who have been following for quite some time, I did give myself a $1,000 weekly raise back in January of this year. I guess I had a feeling I was going to resign my day job soon. This is the money I use to budget my personal expenses. This money gets transferred from the store's bank account into my personal checkings account on a weekly basis. I made a budget Excel to list all my personal expenses and to categorize every dollar. You need to think of dollars as workers. The difference is that these dollars do not sleep and never stop working for you. Every George Washington needs to be assigned a task. If you do not put them to work or assign them a category, they will simply disappear and go work for someone else. I made a video on envelope budgeting a few years ago. If you haven't watched it already, I recommend it since we are still handling our finances this way, and it has helped us tremendously. As you can see on my budget Excel, the amount on my 14 bills or expenses is left in my bank account. 2 expenses are in yellow since they will be paid off one day. My wife's SUV and our home mortgage. Try to break every bill into weekly amounts. If you pay as we do, $24 a month for Netflix, multiply that by 12 months and then divide the total by 52 weeks. This will help you save the correct amount every Friday on payday. For the utility bills that fluctuate on a monthly basis, add the total you have paid in the previous 12 months and then divide it by 12 so you can get the average bill amount. Then break it down by week as we did a few moments ago. As you can see, I also invest $740 a week from my convenience store payroll. I used to invest more when I was at my W-2 job, but my income has taken a hit. I do automatic transfers every Friday from my personal checking to my real estate account. This money is also invested together with the profits from my real estate business. The bottom 13 categories are withdrawn in cash on payday. We go to the bank and ask for $1,000 in change so that we can break them apart in their designated envelope. And yes, we do use actual paper envelopes. We don't swipe our debit card anymore. The top 14 categories are drafted from the bank when the bill is due. Our living expenses are paid in cash from our envelopes. We try to stick to this budget as much as we can. It may sound old school or boring, but this budget has done wonders for us. Our Washingtons know where to go. They are not lost. Some of them are sent to battle to invest and recruit other workers. Others are sacrificed for our pleasures. And the others are sent to bless others in need. We cannot complain. We splurge $150 a week on dining out. I know this may be a lot of money for some of you, but it was not always this good. We have slowly worked our way up to this figure. The good thing about envelope budgeting is that it limits you to what you have inside the envelope. If we decide to go to a super fancy restaurant on Sunday after church and spend the whole $150 on one sitting, we will then have to eat at home for the rest of the week since the envelope will have no more money. Or I can invite my wife on a date, but will need to pay with my own money. As you can see, I pay myself $200 a week. I usually end up either inviting other people to eat, blessing someone in need, invested in the stock market, or sometimes simply splurge on performance parts for my RAM. You will need to play with the numbers when you first create your budget. After a few weeks, you might notice that you have too much money in your gasoline envelope, but are running out of money in your grocery envelope. If this is the case, you can easily modify your numbers and accommodate them so that they can work in your favor. You can also track your saving and giving percentages. As you saw in my vision board, my goal is to increase my giving from 11 to 15% of my income. This is something very important for us since we have learned the rule of giving and have seen God bless us more than we can give. We save about 25% of our convenience store paycheck. But in reality, we are saving and investing about 60% of our overall income, and encourage you to increase this percentage as much as you can. Since our personal spending is already taken care of, whenever we increase our income via more rental properties or sales at our convenience store, we simply continue increasing our investments to continue growing our portfolio. I would love to invest more money into the stock market and have a portfolio of about $10 million. This way I can live off of 3% every year and never deplete my nest egg. It would be an annual income of about $300,000 every year without hurting the principal. Okay, millionaires, this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment down below on what you think of this budgeting strategy. What has worked for you? Don't forget to like this video and share with someone you know who might need help getting their finances under control. Stay safe and God bless.